All right, welcome, Sabrae. Nice to meet you. I like to start these readings. I know you wrote a little bit in your form, but I like to start just to give you a little bit of space to elaborate on that, so that we kind of know what direction to go in. So why don't you tell me? I know you mentioned something about your midheaven and Chiron and wanting to talk about that. So we definitely will. But yeah, why don't you tell me what you're up to? What is relevant to what you want to talk about today?
Yeah, so I'm very much a Gemini, so very mercurial, all over the place. I can never settle down long enough to be oh, this is what I'm gonna do, just out in the world in general. And that kind of lack of clarity, I feel is also exacerbated by that Chiron, in the 10th house. So I really just wanted to get some clarity, see if you see anything that I'm missing when I'm trying, because I'm not an astrologer, I kind of just dabble.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I'm one of those people that just I just have a lot going on. I did grow up, I was in the entertainment industry as a child.
Okay.
So that is also kind of a point of wounding, the whole hypervisibility thing is definitely a thing for me. And now, I mean, I want to go back to school actually to study psychology. So there's that. And then I'm also an artist, so I do illustrations, illustrative portraits, and I also write, and I love doing research and teaching, and I'm all over the place, just very all over.
Yeah, love it. Is the lack of clarity around just what to go all in on, or okay, so it's kind of a matter of there's just too many options.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, first I'll ask what would you do, because I'm imagining that being able to pay bills and stuff is a big part of that decision for you. If you didn't have to worry about paying the bills, what would you do?
Honestly, I'm kind of joking about this, but not really. I would kind of just be a hot person on the internet, and then also do art, in whatever form, whatever
I love
day.
that.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, honestly, that's what I would do. I would just have fun getting dressed up and take pictures and share it when I like it, and then also make art.
Yeah. So I feel that's always the thing that you want to do, that when money's not an issue is usually a really, really strong indication of what you actually want to be doing and what's going to actually make you happy. So I know you're kind of oh, I probably shouldn't take this seriously, or say it out loud.
I don't want to be vain.
No. Well, here's the thing, is that you have a Leo midheaven, so you being vain, what's going to feel like being vain to you is actually probably exactly what you're supposed to be doing. If you had an Aquarius midheaven and you said that, I'd be yeah, that sounds really cool. Probably not the best place for you to focus on, but honestly, with a Leo midheaven, I'm going to say that that's probably a dream that's been planted in your mind for a reason. So yeah. and also there are ways to make that kind of thing happen. It is a possibility. So let's just get rid of any ideas that, oh, well, that's not an option. It is. Yeah. Being a hot person on the internet and doing art is definitely an option. So yeah, it's super interesting that you have you said you're very much a Gemini, and you have your South Node right next to your Gemini Sun. So that makes a lot of sense, because that South Node is this is my comfort zone. This is the energy that I know, and that's really cool. So it makes a lot of sense. You also have a Sagittarius North Node. Mm-hmm. I'm going to address that just briefly, because I think it'll play into this a little bit. I kind of view the nodes as compared to the midheaven axis. The nodes are more your soul's trajectory and journey, and what you're here to do personally for yourself. And it may or may not have anything to do with your midheaven, because your midheaven is more of what you're actually here to do and contribute to the world, because it's indicated by, or like the midheaven is the highest point that the sun was at on the day you were born. So that's the place where the earth received the most light from the sun, right? So if you think about like, okay, what is it that I am projecting out that is my light? You know, like what am I sending to the earth? And then the nodes are more your lessons that you are here to learn on a more personal and spiritual level, right? So I will just point out that with a Sagittarius North Node, a big part of that lesson is going to be learning to trust yourself and not have to like check in with other people and check like, oh, should I be doing this? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Like just having that inner knowing and following that, right? So, and that's in your second house. So that is like having to do with you kind of taking control of your life and controlling your finances, controlling your, like how you take care of yourself and that kind of stuff. So that is a theme. And since you have Mercury and your sun there, it might be particularly hard to like visualize that, but I believe in you. So that's just something to take note of, is that a big part of, I think, you gaining clarity is going to be to stop looking for it. Okay. Yeah, which
that makes a lot of sense, actually. I feel like, especially with where I am right now, like I'm coming out of my Saturn return, and I feel like my Saturn return was all about like chill out. Like I was expecting to be like very, very like constrictive, restrictive, and it was like, no, just lay down. Yeah, actually chill out. Yeah. So that makes sense.
I love that. Okay. Yeah, cool. So with the midheaven, so I'm really curious, you said you had an entertainment like background as a child. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, because with the Aquarius Leo axis, that's really interesting.
Yeah, so I mean the full story is my mom really wanted to be a model and be like actress, maybe a little bit, and she ended up not doing that. She got married and had children, and so she was like, okay, so my children are gonna do it since I didn't get to do it. And so she put me, I'm her first child, so she put me in it really, really young, and I did all of the stuff. So I did the modeling, I did dancing, I did acting, literally anything that you can do, like as a performer in the entertainment industry. I took a class on it, or I did it.
Yeah.
And I did it for a really long time. And I wasn't, obviously I didn't become like famous. Like I didn't become one of the like, you know, Disney kids. The biggest point in my career was I was on a sitcom. I had like a guest spot on a sitcom when I was 12, 13.
Okay.
And then quit right after. Okay. I'm done. Wow. Yeah, and did a little bit of modeling in my like late teens and early 20s, but obviously when you grow up in that kind of environment, there is a huge like hypervisibility wound, like being criticized all of the time. I struggled a lot with like an eating disorder, the whole thing. Yeah, it was just all around not great for a very like very sensitive, very creative child. I was like, I think I want to go home and read my books. Like, I don't think I want to care anymore. So yeah,
that makes sense. That's so fascinating, because like when people have a Leo midheaven, the Aquarius IC is usually indicating that like you've spent your whole life not being in the spotlight and like kind of sacrificing your talents for the sake of the group. And it's crazy because you were doing that. You were like sacrificing your actual authentic personal creative expression for your mom's vision. And so that like Aquarian theme is still really there, and yet you were in the spotlight at the same time, kind of like, that's so interesting. So that Chiron with the midheaven makes so much sense. But then you also have like Mars there, right? And so on a personal level, you know, like you said, you're very creative, and being a performer in some way is probably actually what is going to be like really awesome for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got like Mars anywhere, it kind of just indicates like you have a lot of energy there in that part of your chart. And in Leo, that Mars energy is very like playful and creative, right? So you've got passion there, but you've got this Chiron wound, which undoubtedly is linked to that experience that you had as a kid and growing up. And so there's this like bittersweet association with that industry.
Yeah, it's very like I now in my life I'm like, okay, I can't really deny that I enjoy being seen, like to some extent. Like, not being able to have control over that might also be some of that like Scorpio Rising stuff, is like if I don't have control over how I'm being seen, I don't love that. Like that's extremely uncomfortable.
I've done like a video specifically on Scorpio Rising Leo Midheaven, because it's so, people really struggle with it because they're like, well, I really resonate with this need for like privacy and control, but also my midheaven is in Leo, and like I am supposed to be in the spotlight. And so one of the things I like to point out with that combination is that you being in the spotlight doesn't mean you have to lose all your privacy. Like you can control what people see to an extent. So maybe you being publicly visible is actually only a really small part of your life, right? Maybe you're only showing your art, like, and yourself, but like maybe this is the persona that you have for that. And then, you know, the rest of your life is really private. You get to control that. So yeah, that's just a thing to keep in mind. And then, I mean, so in the equal house system, you also have your sun and south node and Mercury in the 8th house. And the 8th house, I like to talk about it in terms of it's the things in life that we don't control. And that's why it's associated with things like death and sex, because we like don't control those things, right? And so for you, there's obviously a big theme of like a lot of the stuff that happens to you, and like just the events that happen in your life are things that you don't necessarily have control over. So yeah, like a lot of what happens to you probably is at the whim of other people. And then, and with that north node in the 2nd house, maybe like that's kind of pointing to, okay, it's actually time to take control of that and like not let that happen as much. That being said, like, you know, it's not always a bad thing. And we don't want to completely abandon this part of your chart. So yeah, it's always about balance.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think I struggle a lot with that, like kind of like finding a middle passage between those two like poles. Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm really curious what your reasoning for wanting to do psychology is. What's the motivation there?
Childhood trauma.
Okay.
There's just, I mean, too, I think it's directly related to that like Mercury in the 8th house thing, like, and me and the Scorpio rising, like very, very curious about how things work, how the mind works, how relationships work. I've always been really like, I feel like I don't have a super intuitive understanding of how people work. So I'm like, ooh, let me research. Let me see what other, you know, what other people think about this behavior, that behavior, or whatever. And maybe I can integrate it and find some control if I understand a little bit better how people work and why things happen the way that they seem to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you at the point where you've already signed up for school for that, or is this still just like an idea?
So I would be going back to finish my last year of my undergrad program. I haven't actually signed up for anything. I'm just like, yeah, I'm like, it's there, it's an option. There's like a very loose timeline. There's some like resources that need to come like follow through for me to be able to do that. And then there's also a really interesting grad program that I'm just curious about that I really want to do.
Okay.
I also really am very fascinated by the idea of like teaching. So I'm like, okay, I want to, maybe if I go to grad school, I could like teach on this stuff and do that.
Right. So is that kind of your like, well, this dream that I have of being a hot person on the internet and doing art is probably not realistic, so I'm going to go be a teacher? Is that kind of the
Yeah, it's a little bit. I mean, it's stuff that I would do regardless because I'm so fascinated by like consciousness and mysticism and
yeah.
like neuroscience. Like it's stuff that I would do, not would do. It's stuff that I do for fun,
Yeah.
honestly, like
Okay.
research stuff. So it's kind of like it is kind of like, okay, if I can't do this thing, because that seems really unrealistic to like just be on the internet and be cute. Thing else to offer, like that's silly. You can't do
Right.
that.
Right.
So how do we like use this other thing that you're like really interested in and use that to like create some kind of value, some kind of safety net, some
Yeah. So, I mean, okay, so what I'm seeing is that to me, I think like I think your interest in psychology is really cool. And you definitely, if that's something you do for fun and it like lights you up, you should definitely do that. The trajectory of having kind of that like safety escape route, safety net, of like teaching or something like that, to me feels like hiding down here a little bit.
Yeah.
And, you know, that being said, you need money to live. So
Yeah.
do what you got to do. And it's okay. Like if you do that route, I think ultimately you're likely going to kind of have a part of you that doesn't feel fulfilled, until you are back in the spotlight, and doing that dream that you have, because I'm sure you have like, there's kind of like a feeling associated with that and what that would be like. And that's a really powerful thing to use, like to bring that into reality. So, I mean, I'm just going to point out that I think your psychology stuff could probably actually help you make that dream come true. And especially with Chiron near the midheaven. Chiron is this like, you know, wound that never really fully heals. And the myth of Chiron is that he was like this amazing healer, and then he was shot with an arrow and he couldn't heal himself. And so it's kind of become this story of like Chiron is the thing that you were wounded by that you're then able to help others heal from, because you're perpetually in that. And so up on your midheaven, my guess is that all that stuff that you experienced as a child, the wounding around being in the spotlight, you're actually meant to like bring that out and share it so that other people can also heal from that. And I feel like studying psychology and all of that stuff would be a hugely helpful tool in that. So maybe your path is psychology, and then like having that kind of influencer life where you are sharing your art and using that as like a way to help other people heal from their spotlight wound, or to just tell your story, right? And I will say that with Leo Midheaven, it's actually interesting. Yeah, because if someone had an Aquarius midheaven, so if you had an Aquarius midheaven, I would tell you, okay, take that whole concept of like helping other people heal, from whatever specific thing that you articulate, and make that like the main focus, and really use your art to direct people to there. But with a Leo midheaven, what I found is that you actually just want to like have your talent and your art and your personality be the center of focus. And it will be through inspiring people and entertaining people and making people laugh and like having people enjoy that they will be inspired to then, like take up the cause that you're advocating for. They will then be inspired to heal themselves, right? So you don't actually want to focus with a Leo midheaven. This is like the long game, right? Like you might not get there right away, but this is the long game. You don't want to focus on having like, okay, like this is the big worthy reason why I'm doing all of this. It's actually just about you just showing up in the spotlight and like showing your authentic self-expression, and just that is like the magic, right? I've seen other like Leo midheavens get stuck in that Aquarius IC and really see, and what ends up happening is that looks, I have like a really clear idea of what this looks like on social media in particular. Being stuck in the Aquarius IC on social media is like lots of videos with like text over top, lots of videos where you're like, hey, you should do this because of this cause, or like because of this thing that I believe in, or like basically trying to like give people the overview to convince them to do something. And when you have a Leo midheaven, that's not what you want to be doing. You want to just be playing. You want to just be enjoying yourself. So basically that whole dream about being a hot person on the internet is the Leo midheaven energy that you want.
Yeah, I definitely have that like compulsion to like over explain why, like, you know, it feels very like, on one hand it's like, don't look at me because I don't want to be perceived as like vain, but also that like, if you're gonna look at me, this is why you should look at me, and like how you should look at me, and
you kind of have to come up with a justification.
Yeah. I mean, which also makes sense when you're a child going on auditions. Like you're constantly like, this is why you should hire me. Please hire me so my mom can get mad.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's rough.
Yeah. I'm kind of mind blown right now.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So I think reclaiming that part of yourself and healing that part of yourself and being able to like imagine if you hadn't had that pressure as a kid and you were showing up to those auditions because you actually wanted to be there. Like it's kind of healing that part of you and being able to now do that. I think that is what your chart is reflecting.
Yeah. I'm curious too if you think or see a connection with that like Saturn, like, oh, I guess it's in the 4th house. Well, in whole signs, I think it's in the Saturn is in the 5th house, maybe.
Yeah, it probably is, yeah.
Like,
so a connection between Saturn and the Leo?
Yeah, because I feel, I don't know if this is like present in the chart, but this is something that I feel that like, because I had that experience with that, like I see in that like 4th house experience, that like it also bled into that kind of like the 5th house stuff. So I very like, well, I can't express myself unless I have like the proper container to do it, or like, again, that like over explaining type of thing. So I never got to like do, like I tell people all the time, I feel like I didn't have a childhood. I feel like I had a boot camp for how to be in the world in a way that was gonna like be as valuable as possible. So I never got the like playing part. So I never really, I think that that's also maybe part of why I shy away from that Leo midheaven energy and like showing myself, because I'm like, well, I don't feel very secure in that like creativity and that play thing as much as I like it. That's also like, I hated acting because I was like, this feels really phony. It feels very conflicted. It doesn't feel right because I never got experiences to like have fun. Like, how do you like act without like having experiences to like,
no, that's a really good question. And I will say that like, so even though we're using the equal house system, the 5th house is still the ruler, or sorry, Pisces is still like ruling the 5th house. And so even though Saturn is in the 4th house, it's still in Pisces, which is like associated for you with the 5th house. So it's kind of, to me, like, yes, that I think that's still going to apply to that play aspect, but this is just really highlighting like the fact that that is coming from you growing up and your foundation and like your mom and everything that you were nurtured by and like how you grew up. That's where that Saturn came from, right? That Saturn influence. So there was kind of that strict, I think that kind of represents the mother figure in this case for sure. But yeah, that's a really good point and like thing for you to know about yourself. And since Saturn is in Pisces, like that's just going to affect kind of all of Pisces for you, right? And so since your fifth house is in Pisces, like I wonder if there's kind of like a spiritual aspect to all of this, in terms of you and your relationship to play that you could explore to heal that. And so maybe like, I don't know, have you done that at all? Like, have you worked on that?
I have a tendency to turn it into a job. Which is very Saturn. Like I do have a tendency. I'm like, I'm just gonna play, or I'm just gonna color, I'm just gonna do what I would do if I was a kid again, and then I always end up turning it into a job.
Well, and like, you know, part of that is the very valid response to living in like a capitalist society where like you need money, right? So don't beat yourself up for that. I also like to do that, and I will point out, building businesses is extremely creative. Like that is a thing. That is a play thing. Like you learn so much. I feel like in my business, I'm now at the point especially where I'm able to show up so authentically because of my business, right? And so that could be an expression of it. And so that's not necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, maybe kind of erasing like the job and the play labels and like letting it all just be you being creative and following your creativity and not judging whether you want to take it in a monetary direction or not. And then if you want to stop doing that, that's also okay, right?
Yeah.
So just kind of like letting go of that judgment on yourself and then allowing yourself to just show up when you want to and not show up when you don't want to. Because I bet that that's a big part of the dynamic, is that you didn't have control over when you got to do that. And even if you did want to, you were still being required to do it. So it was kind of like erasing your enthusiasm around it, right? So I wonder if like going into allowing yourself to kind of be in the spotlight again, but then being really mindful of, I can remove myself from this whenever I want. I can show up whenever I want. Like you don't have to have this, okay, if I'm going to be in the spotlight, that means I have to show up at these times and in this way and like right? You get to have control over that completely, and that's part of the play, right? Because play, like you have to be able to have control in that. It does seem like there's a lot of themes showing up in your chart about you taking control, and you remembering that you have control ultimately. So
yeah, that feels really good to hear too, because I think one of the other things that I've been struggling with is I'm on the like autism ADHD swirly spectrum, and one of the things that I struggle a lot with, and what I'm dealing with right now, is like I can't go get a 9-to-5 because it's hell. Like it's hell. One, it's hell trying to find one, and two, it's like hell on my nervous system. But the other thing is like my experiences have also been like, well, you're not well suited to build a business either. So like, I'm wondering if it's like more beneficial for me to think about it in terms of like building two pillars that I get to like jump back and forth. Like I can have this hyper visible, like fun play being cute on the internet when I want to, and then I can jump into like a more like hands-on creative business container thing. And like if jumping back and forth will allow me like both the stability that I like really desperately need and the like freedom that I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. What you said in your something about in your experience that you're not suited for building a business, but it sounded like you were channeling someone else. Where did you pick up that message?
Yeah, both of my parents are very again very critical.
Okay.
um I'm the only one of my siblings who hasn't finished my degree. They say that to me a lot, like, oh, you're all over the place, you know, you don't know how to focus, you don't finish anything. Like that's the most common criticism that I get, that I never finish anything. And it's like,
Well,
not
maybe
wrong.
you just haven't finished them yet. Like,
Yeah. So there is kind of like there both of them in my head going like, well, you can't do that because you don't finish anything and you don't finish it fast enough.
yeah. Well, okay, that's bullshit. I like have it's been like 10 years for me.
Mhm.
I'll just say like, and I felt I've had a very similar experience. I had like I did a fashion design degree, and then I mean I did finish it, but you know, got into the industry, and then I had a really terrible experience, and like I just over the years of trying to have normal jobs, it was like I can't do this. Like I hate this so much. I hate every second of it. I have ADHD as well, and like that was kind of I had a really bad experience with one particular place, and then hit rock bottom and was like, okay, I'm going to like try and do my photography business, and then that turned into the astrology stuff as well. And it's
Yeah.
been a long time, but I will say that like in the last year or two,
Hmm.
I am finally starting to see kind of the culmination of a lot of that stuff that I started a long
Hmm.
time ago, and that I always felt shame around, like why am I spending all this time doing this, and like why am I not able to finish anything. But now it's like, holy shit, I built such a strong foundation for myself by doing all of those things and by doing it like the long way. And now that foundation is just like solid AF, and
Hmm.
everything is just kind of clicking into place. And it's like, oh yeah, I can do that because I can like start offering readings. I can start making that much money. I can do it like you know. So
Like to give some time for things to click into place the way that they're
yeah,
do. Yeah.
yeah, it
And
really
then I keep running in the opposite direction. Yeah.
yeah. It sounds like your parents like messaging is definitely, you know, and I think Saturn being in your fourth house really reflects that well. It would make sense in the fifth house too, and I think that just shows like all of the house systems are all just like a different, slightly different perspective on the same information. But
Mhm.
that parental voice in your head is not helping you.
I wish I could pluck it out.
Yeah, I mean, you maybe can. You maybe can. There might be like, I don't know. Sometimes when you finally get to that realization of like, oh, I don't need this. When you like truly get there, sometimes it just disappears.
Yeah.
And it might not. It might take a while, like, and that's okay. But just know, like, sometimes you can just pluck things out. Um,
Hmm.
it might take a little bit, but that's okay. So as an ADHD creative sensitive person, you are building something that other people can't recognize, and you've been building it this whole time by following your like intuition and your creativity. Um, and you're going to come out the other end with something that they're never going to be able to even comprehend, basically. Like one day you will get to that point of being that hot person on the internet making art, and you'll have your life and you'll be making money that way, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, it worked, and it's so
Yeah.
justified. And then all of a sudden your parents will be like, wow, good job. Like as soon as money became a part of it, the tune that people were singing in my life was just so different, and I was like, wow.
When I started.
Interesting. So it is good for me to just trust myself and not listen to you. Okay, cool. Yeah. So there's
like I can't I also have a tendency to like over plan for things. I think that's part of the whole like over planning, over explaining, like, oh, if I build the perfect container, then I can make a case for why I should be doing this.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, I can't be like criticized, which is not.
Yeah. And that's like, that is your brain's way of keeping you safe, because you know, you have experience of being hurt in these contexts. So it's not even that it's an unknown thing. It's that like, no, we have experience. And I mean, it is unknown because it's going to be different.
Yeah.
And so your brain is assuming that you're going to have the same experience you had when you were a kid. And so it's kind of shutting you down and giving you all of these things to do to prepare so that you never actually get there.
Yeah.
But what is actually, like, what will actually get you there is forgetting all of that and just start playing. Like, start getting into that Leo energy and do it in the easiest way possible. Like, don't even worry about a backdrop or lighting. Just pick up your phone, do a video, post it immediately.
Yeah. Okay.
If anything, yeah.
Sorry, I just like it clicked like now that I'm thinking, because it's also like I don't know what the bias is called, but like the like negativity bias. It's like the bad experiences that really stand out, and I'm like so scared of them. But also like I have done that before, and it, you know, it obviously it didn't like immediately turn into a career, but like I had really great like things actually flow a lot better when I just do that. So
Yeah.
I gotta maybe train my eye on that instead of bad experiences.
Totally. Get back into that headspace. And also, like, it is a numbers game, especially when it comes to social media. So just being consistent over time, you will realize like no one of your videos is going to make or break anything, right?
Right.
For the most part. So just being consistent and allowing yourself to do that, and like doing it incrementally a little bit at a time, will, you know, warm your nervous system up to the idea that, oh, hey, maybe we're not going to die if we do this. Hey, maybe we're not going to experience that trauma again. And there's also the point of maybe you will experience some of that pain again, but you will find that you are able to deal with it now. And then you'll be free from it. Right. So that's a part of it too, is that like when I had my turning point, it was like, I am still terrified. I'm not ready. Like, and I'm never going to be ready, but I'm deciding that I'm going to look that fear in the face and just be like, I'm doing this anyway, because I don't want you to be in control. And also, like, I've got this, like, I can take care of it. And like, I did experience the things that I was terrified of, and I had my little cry about it. And then I was free from it for the most part.
Yeah. Like it doesn't end up being like clamshell, like controlling you. It doesn't trap you. It's just like, okay, it's just a thing that happened and it didn't feel very good. And now we can like cry and move on with it. Yeah.
And it didn't feel good. Or it's like, oh, that actually doesn't matter at all. Or like, oh, look, my world didn't end. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we have some new stuff to bring to the therapist now, because now I'm making a lot of connections.
Yay!
Yeah, that's fun.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Progress is exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's like very freeing. It's like, okay, I can relax the shoulder.
Yeah.
Like I have to carry so much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot less work than you think, probably, but that's like, at the same time, it's like, okay, but it's the scariest one. Or it seems like the scariest one.
Yeah, I mean too, like even just this process of like over preparing, like anything is going to be less work than that. So why am I so like
Yeah.
so committed to doing so much work that I just don't have to do. Like,
Exactly. Yeah, it ends up being it ends up when you end up doing something and you're making money and it's like something that you actually like and is easy for you, you're like, wait, what? I'm getting paid for that? And I'm not like completely burnt out at every point of my day. Like, what? This is a thing? It is a thing. I'm going to tell you, like, that is a thing and you will get there. And it's really nice. But you have to actually be willing to let go of like this association with, well, I need to do all of this work in order for it to be valid, or like, or that this just is the way to do it, right? We got to kind of break that down.
Yeah, to like earn a spot, in people, field of vision. Like, I think that's another part of it. It's like, oh, if I don't over explain my value, then I'm not worth it. I'm not worth paying attention to.
Or they won't see it, or exactly. Whereas really, you just being in that space of creativity and in that easy flow space will be the thing that people notice. And that's going to be the most attractive and like magnetic and interesting part of you. Yeah. How's it feeling?
Good and scary, because it's, I mean, just like you said, it's very like, you kind of like, I feel like I'm at that point where I'm like, I'm still on the hamster wheel, but I've stopped and I'm going, why am I on the wheel? Like, why am I over here spinning my wheels, doing all of this extra shit that I don't need to be doing?
Yeah.
But like that, like the path of least resistance is also, it feels like the scariest thing to go down because of a bunch of things, but it feels very good to be like affirmed in like, no, babe, that's,
you're allowed.
Go that, yeah, you're allowed. You're allowed to go that way. You don't have to do all this extra stuff. You don't really need to be more disciplined. Like, I had a conversation with my father a couple of weeks ago where he had said something along the lines of like, oh, I wish I had forced you to play like team sports, because then you'd be more disciplined. And I'm like, I had a whole career as a child. Did I need more discipline?
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's rough. I'm so sorry. And also that you're like still getting that messaging. That sucks so much.
Yeah. I mean, now I'm in my 30s now, and I'm a little bit better at talking back. So at the very least, I was able to like be like, hold on, sir.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. Yeah, I think like the path of least resistance, as we were saying, like, is also really scary because it's specifically demonized in society. It's like, well, if you do that, then you're lazy. But I think that's just people's way of justifying the fact that they're doing something they hate. And if everybody else has to work really hard, then that means that they're justified and that they're not wasting their time. Right.
Yeah, I grew up in a really religious family too, so that's a huge part of it. And like this whole like, no, you have to suffer to like have good things. It's like, well, why? Why do I have to do that?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Because if you're suffering, then you're not like your fullest, most powerful self, and you're more easy to control.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So you being in this headspace of distracted and like feeling like you have to do all this work is actually only benefiting the system that wants to control you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I'm finding all of the like places in my body where I've like internalized that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot to process. And I mean, the whole deconstruction process and leaving religion, like that's a really big journey.
It's very like I've been getting into like cult. I've always been really interested in like cults and stuff like that, because I'm like, Oh, that sounds like how I grew up. Like we
Yeah.
weren't technically in like a cult, but like that's what religion felt like. That's what it felt like being in my family. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And now, yeah, that's also part of like my interest in psychology. Is like, how can I like uncult my brain? Like get
Yeah.
that.
Totally. Yeah, I've watched a few of the documentaries too and been like, "Oh, yeah, those are all the exact same tactics. They're just like in the situation I was in, they weren't getting me to do something illegal, right? Like that's
Yeah,
the difference. Or they weren't committing crimes specifically. Like I
yep,
wonder if that's one of the big differences. But
yeah,
it's so
or
familiar.
Have you seen the Ruby Frankie one
No.
about? Okay, so she was like one of those like mommy vloggers on YouTube,
Okay.
and like really really horrible circumstances. She was treating her children awfully, but as I was watching it, I had one of those moments where I was like, I am so glad that there was no YouTube or TikTok or social media when I was growing up, because as bad as I had it with my mom in the entertainment industry, if she also had access to YouTube, like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, like there's just no way. I don't think I would have made it to 31 years. Like it would
Yeah.
have been horrible.
Oh
Uh,
man.
but even recognizing that, like, I'm very grateful that as not fun as it was for me as a child, at least it wasn't that. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
that bad. Now that there are those kinds of like resources and tools, I have full control
Yeah.
of those things, and that helps a little bit in my brain. Be like, it's okay. Like
Yeah.
you're not gonna Ruby Frankie yourself, so
Yeah,
you're fine.
yeah. Yeah, you can reclaim it a little bit. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, with Chiron up by your midheaven, like there's always that's just adding another layer of like I guess what's the right word? Like it's going to be another layer of scary
Yeah.
and difficult to work through. But it's also going to make it that much more powerful and like make you a really powerful healer when you get
Yeah.
up there. So because like on one hand, the Chiron being there is like, well, this is going to be hard for you. On the other hand, it's like this is part of your midheaven. This is part of what you're meant to contribute to the world, is like bringing that wound and like using it to help other people heal and teach
Mhm.
other people. So yeah.
Yeah. I think too, like maybe I need to do some reflecting on like even that whole like maybe that's also like my perspective of what that looks like is colored by this like it's me thinking like it's going to be hard means like it's going to be endless suffering and horrible
Right.
all of the time, and like you're always going to be Sisyphus with the boulder, like that it's like
Yeah.
always like that, and that's not necessarily how like Chiron works, right?
No, no, yeah, it definitely is not going to be like that forever. And also like sometimes striving and that difficulty and that pushing when you're doing it from a place of having to do it for someone else or doing it because someone else is telling you to, it's so much more painful than if you're doing it because you feel like it's worth it. Like you feel like there's something on the other end of it that is justifying it, right? Like I I can't get up and like go to work um at a 9 to 5 and like enjoy my life like that. But when I'm running my own business and doing something like this that I really love, I get up and I'm like, okay, what do I need to do today? And like I do a
Yeah.
whole day
You're
of work. Yeah, and I'm exhausted by the end of the day, but I'm like, wow, I feel amazing. Like I'm
yeah.
so glad that I did that. So it's not that like it's not that it's not going to require work and it's not going to be hard, but it's going to feel so different. Like it's going to be so satisfying and so rewarding in a way
Mhm.
that that suffering wasn't, right?
Yeah, yeah, like it's just a different a totally different kind of hard. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Ooh.
What do you do right now? Are you like doing a part-time job or something kind of while you're figuring this all out?
No, I got married last year.
Okay.
My husband's a doctor,
Okay.
so I haven't had to work a I kind of do like projects here and there. So like I was doing some like graphic design work. My dad has a business that I help out with sometimes, but like the bulk of my like bills being paid are being paid by my husband, but that's also not working out. So that's also part of why I'm like, ooh, here's an opportunity to talk about my midheaven. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Because I need to hurry up and make money and make a career and like make a life for myself, because this shit is not, it's not working.
Like the marriage or just the financial aspect?
Marriage.
Okay. That's rough.
Yeah, it's rough, but it's fine. I didn't do anything wrong. So.
Okay. I'm so sorry to hear that, but yeah, I've been a really big part of like my journey has been like relying on partners to be able to like have the time to develop this, and it's hard. It's like, I mean, it almost feels wrong to say that because like, well, you have somebody else helping you, but like the shame around it is like, and I've had to be like, okay, no, I deserve like help and rest, and I need to like allow that to happen. But it's always like, oh my gosh, if people find that out, are they gonna like think less of me or like think that it's less legit, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's such an interesting balance to find.
Yeah, it is really, really hard, and it does kind of fuel that kind of like, I have to hurry up and figure this out type of thing. But it's fine. I haven't died. So like this isn't the first time I've been without a job. It's not the first time I've had to like make my way in a different kind of way, and I always figure it out.
Yeah, you will figure it out. And you've already been taking the alternate route this whole time. And the more that you're able to be at peace with that, like that's legit and that is okay that you're doing it that way, the more easily it will all come together.
Right.
As you kind of let go of guilt for not having it all figured out yet, like, because I think the guilt and the shame and the beating ourselves up for it really just makes the process take longer.
Yeah. So like constrictive. It's like, you can't see what's going on in front of you because all of that guilt and shame is,
And then the universe has to like work that much harder to like get your attention and be like, here's the next step, right? Whereas if you're in a grounded place and you're like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to take this sense of panic and have that be my motivator. I'm going to actually sit still for a second and be like, what do I actually want to do? And is prioritizing financial stability, although that is really important to an extent, like we don't want you to end up in a really desperate and dangerous situation, but is prioritizing that to the extent that you are actually going to result in the best result, right?
And like what's best in the long term, because I am very good at like, I was a nanny for a while, like I'm really good at like going out, getting a job and finding a way, but I don't want to have to do that anymore. I want to
totally
do what I'm meant to do,
Yeah. And all of those things that you've tried and like experimented with and all the different things that you've done and not finished, that's not for nothing. Like you've learned stuff from that. You've got a foundation now. You have experience that you can speak to. And that's part of building the foundation. And your foundation is just going to be made up of like way more pieces than most people's foundation, right?
Yeah. It's way more fun and like interesting too. I know like people that I look up to, they're interesting people. Like they don't always have to be very like loud and verbose about it, but like they're just fascinating people. I'm like, I want to be, I think I'm pretty interesting. I want to be more.
Yeah. Oh, you sound very interesting to me. So yeah. Totally. All right. I think we're pretty much at the end here. I mean, is there any burning questions at the last minute?
Just as kind of like a Hail Mary, like random thing, I also really love writing and I want to write novels. I'm wondering if you see that that's like supported in my chart, or if it's, no, don't do that.
Mercury and Gemini, immediately, like that's one of the best. Like I have Mercury and Gemini as well, and that's a very helpful placement for writing. Let me see. And then you have Neptune and Uranus in the third house, which is like that house of communication and is ruled by Gemini. And then Neptune, imagination, Uranus, innovation. Yes, there's enough.
Okay.
There's enough stuff there to be like, yeah, totally. If you want to do that, go for it. And, always just reminding you that like, if it is exciting to you, that's probably a good sign. This chart is just reflecting the things that you already know about yourself, right? So, but yeah, Mercury and Gemini, you're probably really good at writing, so.
I'm all right. Yeah. Okay. I'm getting that too. Like there's just some like kind of weird funky stuff that I want to like play with and experiment with, like specifically with like writing and writing novels maybe. It's good to know that my chart reflects that.
And it looks like, hold on, is it no, okay. I thought maybe it was sextiling your midheaven, but everything ends up connecting back anyway, so I think it's a creative thing, right? So your talents, anything that is a talent of yours and that is creative and fun for you, like that's something that you can bring into that midheaven space and it's going to be really good. So yay. Well, I hope you have some clarity and some direction. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time and this offering. It's amazing.
You're so welcome. Thank you for being willing to contribute to my efforts. It was really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay. I will I'll see you online and I will send you the recording of this shortly.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.